He was the leader of the Armleder massacre against Jewish. And this started in 1336 in Franconia, and subsequently by John Zimberlin during 1838 to 1839 in Alsace, who attacked more than 100 Jewish communities. Following these crusades, Jews were subject to expulsion, including in 1290 the banishing of all English Jews in 1396. 100,000 Jews were expelled from France in 1421. Thousands were expelled from Austria. Many of those expelled fled to Poland. In the Black Death, plague swept across Europe in the mid-14th century, annihilating more than half of the population. Jews often became the scapegoats. Rumors spread that they had caused this epidemic by deliberately poisoning wells, an accusation that appeared in the 1321 leper scare. In 1321, lepers' plot was an alleged conspiracy of French lepers to spread their disease by contaminating water supplies, including well water, with their powders and poisons. According to the American historian Salman Grizel, leopards were the most abused group of people during the Middle Ages. Hundreds of Jewish communities were destroyed by the ensuing hatred and violence. Pope Clement VI tried to protect Jews by a papal bull dated July 6, 1348, and by an additional bull soon after. But several months later, 900 Jews were burnt alive in Strasbourg, where the plague had not yet affected the city. The Jews of Prague were attacked on Easter of 1389. The massacre of 1391 marked a decline in the golden age of Spanish Jewry. Now, we have the relationship between the Muslims and the Jews in the Islamic world. Now, this is what's weird about all that is from the 9th century onward, the medieval Islamic world imposed dhimmi status on Christian and Jew minorities. Nevertheless, Jews were granted more freedom to practice their religion in the Muslim world than they were in Christian Europe. Jewish communities in Spain thrived under tolerant Muslim rule during the Spanish Golden Age, and Cordova became a center of Jewish culture. However, the entrance of the Almoravids from North Africa in the 11th century saw harsh measures taken against both Christians and Jews. As part of this repression, there were pogroms against the Jews in Cordova in 1011 and in Granada in 1066. The Almohads, who by 1147 had taken control of the Almoravids, Maghribi, and Andalusian territories, took a less tolerant view still and treated the dhimmis harshly. Faced with the choice of either death or conversion, many Jews and Christians took a third option if they could and fled. Some, such as the family of Maimonides, went east to more tolerant Muslim lands, while others went northwards to settle in the growing Christian kingdoms. At certain times in the Middle East, in Egypt, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, decrees ordering at certain times in the Middle Ages in Egypt, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, decrees ordering the destruction of synagogues were enacted. Jews were forced to convert to Islam or face death in part of Yemen and Morocco and Baghdad. 6,000 Jews were killed by the Muslim mob during the 1033 Fez massacre. There were further massacres in Fez in 1276 and 1465, and in Marrakesh in 1146 and 1232. Now, right there is what I wanted to discuss about that, and I also want to talk about these blood libels more in detail, because that is the thing that was the worst part about it. Is like these people today believe that this stuff is true, and the truth of it is it was headed up by freaking Catholic religious orders who created it as propaganda to justify them going out and murdering people, okay? And that's how it started. This is not actual true. There's nothing true to about these stories, okay? The only truth about it is these stories were used to murder people, and that's it. On many occasions, Jews were accused of drinking the blood of Christian children in mockery of the Christian Eucharist. According to the authors of these so-called blood libels, the procedure for the alleged sacrifice was something like this. A child who had not yet reached puberty was kidnapped and taken to a hidden place. The child would be tortured by Jews, and a crowd would gather at the place of execution. In some accounts, the synagogue itself, and engage in a mock tribunal to try the child. The child would be presented to the tribunal naked and tied, and eventually be condemned to death. In the end, the child would be crowned with thorns and tied or nailed to a wooden cross. The cross would be raised, and the blood dripping from the child's wounds would be caught in bowls or glasses and then drunk. Finally, the child would be killed with a thrust through the heart from a spear, sword, or dagger. Its dead body would be removed from the cross and concealed or disposed of, but in some instances, rituals of black magic would be performed on it. This method, with some variation, can be found in all the alleged Christian descriptions of ritual murder by Jews. The story of William of Norwich from 1144 is often called as the first known accusation of ritual murder against Jews. The Jews of Norwich, England, were accused of murder after a Christian boy, William, was found dead. It was claimed that the Jews had tortured and crucified him. The legend of William of Norwich became a cult, and the child acquired the status of holy martyr, little Saint Hugh of Lincoln, and that was in 1255, and that was done by the Catholic Church. Now, in the 13th century, reputedly had his belt cut open and his entrails removed for some occult purpose, such as a divination ritual, after being taken from the cross. And that's Simon of Trent, 1475. In the 15th century, was held over a large bowl so that all of his blood could be collected. It was alleged. And what they're trying to do there is describe to you how this story had changed over the time period. So it went from one type of ritual sacrifice to 3 different ones, I believe, right there. Okay, and that's what this is about. These are just stories that people are fabricating, and as time went on, it evolved. All right. Now, during the Middle Ages, such blood libels were directly against Jews in many parts of Europe, and believers of these false accusations reasoned that the Jews, having crucified Jesus, continues to thirst for pure and innocent blood at the expense of innocent Christian children. Jews were also sometimes falsely accused of desecrating consecrated hosts in a reenactment of the crucifixion. This crime was known as the host desecration, and it carried the death penalty. So that's basically where all of that came from. And I want you to keep in mind that this right here, the victim of this child who was the victim was actually even made into a holy martyr, little Saint Hugh of Lincoln, you know. And who does that? It's the Catholic Church, you know. And you can read about the witch hunts, and you can find the same kind of text that was written that was used as propaganda against witches during the witch hunts. That is the thing that really gets me. So I get fired up about this stuff. This is something that I really didn't want to even try to mention, but I'm tired of hearing it. I know that there's people out there who believe this stuff, and all I'm saying is it's garbage. And if you got a problem with me about saying that, then that's on you. But get over it. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you about the rat line. This is the rat line. This is where we get into the Nazis, and this pertains to the last days of the Reich, whenever the Allies were moving in on Hitler and all the cities were destroyed, and what remained of the Nazi officers were looking for a way out, a way to escape. Now, the rat lines were systems of escape routes for German Nazis and other fascists fleeing Europe from 1945 onward. In the aftermath of World War II, these escape routes mainly led towards havens in Latin America, particularly in Argentina, though also in Paraguay, Colombia, Brazil, Uruguay, Mexico, Chile, Peru, Guatemala, Ecuador, and Bolivia, as well as the United States, Canada, Australia, Spain, and Switzerland. There were 2 primary routes. The first went from Germany to Spain, then Argentina. The second from Germany to Rome, then Genoa.